What's up, you guys? Ross Sapp here for the Wrestling Inc. podcast, May 6th or June 6th edition, rather. I am joined by Wrestling Inc. founder Giri, as well as Rob McCarron. Some of you may notice Vince Russo no longer joining us on these shows. He's kind of doing his own thing. Still working a little bit with Wrestling Inc., but Raj, I know that you wanted to address that a little bit.
Yeah, nothing big. He won't be doing the Monday night shows anymore. He's going to be doing his own thing on his site, and so yeah, if you want to check it out, you can sign up for a subscription there, and he'll still be doing columns on Wrestling Inc. and he's still a friend of the site. It was no drama, just he wanted to do his own thing. So I wish Vince the best, and you'll still see him around here and there, and we'll have him on as a special guest every now and then.
Yeah, really came to like Vince Russo. I got to be honest, the first time you told me you're going to do a show with Vince Russo, I was like, what? Yeah. I don't know how to feel about this. And he won me over, and a lot of the things that he said make an incredible amount of sense. And he was very valuable to the show, so nothing but love for Vince Russo. He did try to book us in a podcast on a pole match before he left, though, which was really weird.
That was one of the things that led to the end.
Sorry, Vince, we couldn't do it. But we're joined by Rob McCarron. Those of you who watch our Wednesday shows know him. Rob, say hello to the Monday people who will surely not hate you.
Surely not hate me? Well, that's a high bar. Yes, hello. I'm glad to be on Monday nights. They are definitely tough shoes to fill. But I will do my best.
So, lots of stuff happened this weekend, guys. I got to say, in my years of covering combat sports, probably the most newsworthy weekend I've ever had, between the Muhammad Ali death, Brock Lesnar WWE, the CM Punk fight date rumors, Michael Bisping winning the title, the Ariel Helwani stuff, Dan Henderson's crazy knockout, but of course, we got to talk about the Brock Lesnar thing. Brock Lesnar, it was announced Saturday evening, just before UFC 199, by MMA Fighting's Ariel Helwani, that he had reached an agreement to fight at UFC 200. Shocking for any number of reasons, namely that 15 months ago, he said he was closing the book on his UFC career and had re-signed with WWE. Now, apparently, this had always been an option for him. You may remember in 2012, the UFC tried to book Fedor Emelianenko versus Brock Lesnar, in which Fedor backed out of because of the death of his father. So, I mean, apparently that option has always been there, and Brock Lesnar evidently picked up the phone, called Dana White, and said, I want on UFC 200. Couple of things, guys. This gave them an incredible amount of leverage when negotiating with Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, I'm sure, because this is the one of the 2 or 3 human beings in the world that they could put there and replace what they were losing with McGregor and Diaz. Raj, what were your thoughts when you heard that Brock Lesnar was returning to the UFC, and next month at that?
Yeah, I thought it was odd that he was supposed to be wrestling in Hawaii, and there were a couple other dates that were rumored for the summer, and that the Hawaii date is coming up soon, and there had been no mention from WWE. But as is always with the case with Lesnar, there's a lot of last minute negotiating and changes. But yeah, I was shocked. I'll admit it. I was surprised. Every time you hear rumors of Lesnar negotiating with the UFC, you just figure it's a negotiating ploy. But this actually happening is pretty amazing. I have my doubts about Lesnar's story about him contacting Dana, just from a timing standpoint. It seems like the timing happened right after McGregor and Diaz fell apart, and that's when Lesnar started his training camp. So I gotta think it was the UFC that initiated it, but that's just my guess. But yeah, it definitely makes the show a lot more interesting. I think they picked the worst possible opponent for him, but you talk about someone who can knock guys out quick, and he was competing for the interim UFC heavyweight title just a year and a half ago. So this is no joke, and
yeah.
It's someone that could easily give Brock a concussion. So I don't know if he gets knocked out. I don't know what that if that changes plans or what that does. But it's a risky fight. But gotta give your hats off to UFC for really not salvaging. The show was going to be great anyway, but just making the interest that much greater.
Not to interrupt before we get Rob's thoughts, but I kind of have gotten confirmation, and it's very unfortunate. It appears as if Kimbo Slice, Kevin Ferguson, former UFC fighter, really one of the bigger draws in MMA history, has passed away at 42. Really rough news. He was a part of a fight with Dada 5000 a couple months ago. Drew a lot of attention for Bellator. A lot leading into it for some of the wrong reasons afterwards. He also failed a drug test. Details are kind of, few and far between right now, but I'm getting it from several people now. Like my phone just blew up about that. Rob, any memories of Kimbo Slice?
I mean, when CBS was getting into fighting, obviously Kimbo Slice was their big draw, and Elite XC and what eventually became Strikeforce, they were building their casual fan base around Kimbo Slice. He was the one that was getting ESPN attention. When ESPN wouldn't pay any attention to UFC, they were paying attention and doing long-form stories on Kimbo Slice, and CBS really made Strikeforce a household name. You saw Kimbo Slice, and you wanted to see where they were going, and that's my memory, is just seeing a lot of Kimbo Slice on television. He was obviously a charismatic figure. You're seeing a lot of MMA journalists on Twitter and social media right now talking about how kind he was, how sincere he was, and a lot of his on-screen persona was just that, an on-screen persona, and not necessarily the complete Kevin Ferguson. So he did a lot, and then when he came into UFC, it was a spectacle for sure. A lot of people were wondering, this is a complete PR stunt. Why is Kimbo Slice coming in here? And they put him on Tough Enough. They didn't give him a main event fight. They didn't say, you were on main event on national TV, we're going to put you in a main event fight on UFC. They made him come up through Tough Enough, and he did it. This was a guy that wasn't going to take the low road, or the easy journey, I guess you could say, for everything. This guy went through Tough Enough, the reality show, and really came into UFC with a little bit of dues paid. So this was a guy that you could tell never was going to be the best fighter of all time, but he really was trying to do things the right way in a lot of ways. So, I mean, it's sad. It's unfortunate. The whole thing is unfortunate, from the last Kimbo Slice fight, from the failed drug test to Dada 5000's health, and now to Kimbo Slice health. And you opened the show, Sean, talking about how this was such a newsworthy weekend. And yeah, there were good things that happened this weekend, but there was way too much bad that outweighs everything that good went on.
Yeah, and he was scheduled to fight next month for Bellator against James Thompson. Tragic. I mean, Raj, I always like to talk to you about these things. You've been covering wrestling for almost 20 years now, and MMA and wrestling kind of go hand in hand. He transcended MMA. He also participated in boxing for a brief period. A lot of he had some pro wrestling offers as well.
Yeah, I used to see Kimbo a lot when I had started Fightline. The first MMA events we'd get credentialed to were Elite XC and Strikeforce events. So I would talk to Kimbo quite a bit, and I always remember there was one event. My wife was taking pictures for the site, and we didn't have a good one at Kimbo, and she kept asking Kimbo, hey, let me get one good one. And every time, she was like close to getting one, he'd make a face and like stick his tongue out, or make a silly face. And this lasted all night. I mean, this was for hours. He would just keep making faces every time he'd see her from the side. I mean, he's just really funny, and he was a cool dude. And I think, I would say that he is the biggest MMA draw of all time. I mean, if you were to look at the top 10 most MMA fights in the U.S., I mean, you got to think at least 5 involve Kimbo. And I mean, I don't know who else you'd put on that list. Put on that list.
He was in the most watched fight of all time against North America, I believe, against Roy Nelson.
Well, I think Dos Santos and Cain Velasquez beat that. Right. But after that, I think it's pretty much Kimbo, and I think there was Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock, and then Dan Henderson and Quentin Jackson. But those were all really big fights. And Kimbo, he's fighting, James Thompson. Those fights are, making history. And even now at his age, Dada 5000, and they're breaking records. I mean, the dude was a huge draw. And it's just crazy.
Terrible, unfortunate news. We'll talk a little more about Brock Lesnar. Of course, he's facing Mark Hunt. This is a dangerous, dangerous fight for Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is much taller than Mark Hunt. Not that easy to get his hips underneath Mark Hunt for a takedown. I could see Brock Lesnar getting caught with an uppercut, with a knee on the way in, getting knocked out. There were some safer options. Shane Carwin offered to fight Brock Lesnar, rematch of their historic UFC 116 bout. There were a few other options. Rob, what do you make of them going with Mark Hunt, which is a very dangerous fight?
Yeah, well, Brock Lesnar's not their guy, so they don't care if Brock Lesnar loses.
Well, you have to believe that WWE had a say in who he fought. But then again, it's very likely that Vince McMahon maybe saw Mark Hunt and said, "Okay, pal."
No, I don't have to believe that WWE had any say in who he was going to fight. And I don't think Brock Lesnar, outside of agreeing to the name that they propose, probably didn't have much say either. So, no, UFC says, yeah, Brock, we want you. We're going to give you this, Mark Hunt. He's not a top 5 guy. And give you Mark Hunt, and you're going to fight. We're going to pay you a lot of money for it. And you go to WWE, and WWE says, oh, okay, as long as we get something back. And they're getting something back. They're getting promotion. They're getting, I didn't see it. I must have missed this. But what's going on with Paige Van Zandt?
They're interested in her, but I mean, why wouldn't they be?
I gotta think it's more than that. You got Lesnar fighting at UFC 200. I don't think a Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah, it's not going to be it.
Evens it out. I don't think Ronda Rousey's appearance at WrestleMania last year evens it out. It's got to be something for this, coming up WrestleMania.
Especially Rousey's appearance being unpromoted. On top of that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So you got to think there's more to it than that, but we'll see. I just couldn't see them doing it unless, maybe they got a huge payday out of it.
That's possible.
Which is possible, but even then, I wouldn't think that they would do it just because there's so much to lose. But
I thought. And
I'm of the belief that really there's not that much to lose. Worst case scenario, he does lose the fight and he gets knocked out. Say because of an injury, he does have to miss SummerSlam. That's a little bit of a blow, but they're not on pay-per-view anymore. They're on the WWE Network, and there have not been signs of the network going up and down based on months where Brock Lesnar is there and when he's not there. So I don't think they're worried too much about not having Brock for this particular pay-per-view if that's what happens. And that's a little bit of a risk, but the reward is you get the promotion. God forbid Brock actually wins the fight against Mark Hunt, and now you have Brock Lesnar coming back to WWE even hotter than he has been the last year or two. So there's a lot of reward for WWE in this too that's outside of, just being given money. There's financial reward, indirectly if Brock Lesnar wins. So I'm of the belief that there's actually not that big of a risk that a lot of people are thinking.
If he gets knocked out in 30 seconds, I think that kills so much of his mystique, his WWE mystique, his persona. And the network numbers do jump up around SummerSlam and WrestleMania. You look last year, before WrestleMania and before SummerSlam, where they were at and where they went, and then they go back down. So his matches do make a difference. So I do think that
those pay-per-views make a difference. I don't believe Brock Lesnar happens to be on those pay-per-views, but there have also been pay-per-views he's been on where it hasn't made a difference. That are B pay-per-views because they're B pay-per-views.
Sure, but he is. He's arguably their second, number 1 or number 2 star, and you're, that guy getting knocked out. It just doesn't look good for the company.
We also got news that Rob McCarron is likely going to have to eat a hat. Raj, are you familiar with this?
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Rob has said that he will eat a hat if CM Punk ever actually fights in the UFC.
That's right.
And according to Jeremy Botter of Flow Combat, that fight is targeted for UFC 202, the undercard of the Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz rematch, August 20th, the same night as an NXT Takeover Brooklyn show. Rob, any comments?
Yeah, I've never been. This is as confident as I've ever been that he's not fighting. I mean, first of all,
Is this a
CM Punk
legit hat, like a baseball hat, or it's not going to be a cheese head or anything like that, right? That's actually going to be a cheese.
It can be whatever, because I'm never gonna have to do it. So really, I mean, it could be whatever you guys want. It could be a hat that says Wrestling Inc. on it. Scarf that sucker down. That'd be perfectly fine.
All right.
I just don't
You're
think
gonna sponsor this hat eating, Raj.
We could do it on
You know
there.
what? I bet it would do an insane amount of hits if you got some sponsors from people.
Oh, put it on the video, yeah. I just don't think I'm gonna have to do it because CM Punk has been targeted to fight for a year and a half now. He was targeted to fight in 2015, didn't happen. He has the back injury. He's getting older. It's a year and a half since he's come into UFC. There's a lot that can happen still too. Targeted to fight on August 20th, but hasn't been announced yet. And we could see training accidents between CM Punk and Mickey Gall for all we know. We could see a lot of different things happen.
I gotta agree. I think it's maybe 20% that he'll end up fighting, but I have my doubts as well.
Yeah, there's so much that can happen because and again, I don't lose the bet if a fight's announced. He's got to get in the ring and actually do it. And with the way that UFC has had luck with injuries over the last year and a half, fights get canceled a lot, Sean.
Yeah, there's been a major fight on every single UFC pay-per-view. I think this year, a co-main event or a main event, I think of every single pay-per-view thus far this year has been changed, including, I think, one show that was canceled altogether. So, yeah, we'll talk more about UFC 199 and the Ariel Helwani situation in a bit. Won't be that far ahead because tonight's Raw did not offer a lot. We opened with the Money in the Bank members all sitting on top of a ladder. This was almost so bad it was good type of thing. Raj, what did you think of this opening promo where they kind of threw zingers back and forth at each other?
It didn't do anything for me. I thought, the whole thing with them standing on ladders, I thought, maybe that I could see how that's a cool idea on paper, but it just looks so contrived when they're out there and just seems so cheesy. But at the same time, I was thinking to myself, hey, at least it's not, a segment with Stephanie McMahon. And I should have known better.
Oh, boy.
It seems like a great idea with no bailout plan. Like, we're going to get them on ladders, we're going to have them talk back and forth, and then they're just going to be there. And it's not the best execution, and it is a little contrived, and it's a little silly. Their worst nightmare sometimes is when they start builds for pay-per-views so early, and then they have the next week and the next week, and there's not a lot of new stuff they can do. And I think this Money in the Bank has been a clear situation that is occurring because the first Raw after Extreme Rules, to me, felt like a go-home show with having all the Money in the Bank stuff, and then you had on SmackDown the next night, you completed the card. The next Raw also felt like a go-home show for Money in the Bank, and then you have another week of Raw, and then you'll still have next week's actual go-home show. There's just too much time for them to do it. I don't usually like to say that maybe they should slow down the build a little bit and maybe not have something going on every single Raw, but this has been one of those situations where it's killed the Money in the Bank match a little bit, whereas on the other side, AJ Styles and John Cena, I think they keep elevating and elevating. I think that was probably the best part of Raw for me tonight.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and talk. I mean, they set up 3 matches. Well, Teddy Long made a return and stumbled his way through some things. Do you all think that was by design or he was just messing it up?
It got so bad that I felt like it had to have been by design because, but then they didn't really go back to that later. Like he wasn't stumbling later, so it could have just been really, he lost his train of thought and just went haywire from there.
Well, either way, Stephanie McMahon emasculated him, Rob. Is normal?
Yeah, why not? I mean, he's not going to be back.
I'm okay with that.
Have your fun with Teddy Long. The people just want to see him. I think too that it was a lot by design. He might have been told out there or to go out there and riff a little bit, and he didn't know how to do it. This is a guy that hasn't been on TV every week, so he might be a little bit rusty. But I thought that was cool seeing Teddy Long, and then we saw him a lot more throughout the rest of the show that I thought we would. And it just kind of ended. I was hoping that he would book a one-on-one match with The Undertaker somewhere, and it wouldn't happen, and we didn't get that.
Yeah. You know, I definitely don't mind cameos like this here and there. I think it makes the show a little more unpredictable. But just, you know, when the ultimate the ultimate ending is just Stephanie dressing him down, and taking him out. You know, it's just ultimately just getting Stephanie over.
So who else shows up? Do we get more of these? Do we get Vicky Guerrero coming back? Do we get Johnny
Brad Maddox?
Yeah.
I would love Brad Maddox coming back.
That would be something.
I would too.
Vicky, I could easily see, and same as People Power, but
ooh, Mike Adamle, y'all.
Mike Adamle?
That's who we need back. We need her to emasculate every one of these former authority figures. Better them than some current member of the roster, I think. Out of this segment, we got Cesaro versus Chris Jericho, a good match, and Cesaro won clean. Mm-hmm. This is one of Cesaro's bigger victories in the WWE.
I'm not used to seeing Cesaro win singles matches yet on Raw, but we're seeing it. Ever since he came back, I mean, this is a guy that's no longer a pushover. He's going to win matches, and it's very cool. It is cool to see, but I'm not used to it yet.
Yeah, I thought it's a good win, but the problem I see whenever they have these multi-person ladder matches, that the build for them, it's always the same thing. They just kind of mix and match the same guys, you know, for weeks on end, show after show, to where none of those matches mean anything, and it's, you know, only that one ladder match at the end is the one that means something. So, you know, I felt like all three of these matches, none of them felt like they meant anything. There was no stakes. It's just, and you're going to see more of that on SmackDown. It's just time filler.
A lot of it on SmackDown, because we get Dana Brooke versus Becky Lynch for the third time, Ambrose versus Jericho for the 100th time. Like, why couldn't they have stretched out these Money in the Bank qualifying matches? Why couldn't they have had maybe 2 per week on Raw? That way, you know, you can say we're going to determine over the next several weeks. You better not miss it.
Absolutely.
I don't get why they don't do that.
And it would have avoided the issue of, okay, now what do we do with all 6 of these guys every single week when we have to do the mixing and the matching of the match? And you really saw that with Dean Ambrose too, because Dean Ambrose is pretty much feuded with all these guys. Mm-hmm. When they book, you know, Dean Ambrose versus a Kevin Owens, you're like, oh, I've seen that before. Everyone else is in a new match except for Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
And you could have like Kevin Owens and Jericho trying to cost these guys who have been thorns in their side their opportunities at Money in the Bank, because they've already qualified, but their longtime foes have not.
I like Raj's point too, because you're right. I mean, Cesaro gets this big win, and now his reward for getting a pretty big singles win over Chris Jericho. I mean, the last guy to get a singles win over Jericho was AJ, and he got a title shot out of it. Well, now Cesaro beats Chris Jericho, and what does he get? He gets a chance to beat Chris Jericho again and 5 other guys in a ladder match that will then give him a shot to maybe wrestle the champion at some point. Like, this should be a match that, yes, it gets you ready for Money in the Bank, but hey, down the line, Cesaro kind of earned his way into the title picture anyway just by beating Chris Jericho, and we don't get any of that.
We also got Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens, a fine match, but we've seen this a million times. Don't even really need to address it that much. But Raj, any thoughts about this match?
Yeah, just seen it over and over. Yeah, not much. Did we already get to the video feature?
Oh yeah, I was just talking about the matches that came out of this. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, Ambrose. Yeah, I just, like, you know, I've said it before. I just feel like Ambrose has been cooled down since he got into that feud with Lesnar, and as soon as his matches start, I just feel like this drain of energy from the building, and I felt that here. And they tried. I thought the match itself was fine, but just couldn't care.
Robert, you have the belief that Ambrose has been spinning his tires. It doesn't seem like he does anything different than as a character, as a wrestler.
No.
But how do you feel?
Yeah, no, he doesn't do anything different. I mean, every feud is the same. It's based on a lot of props that Dean Ambrose wants to bring along, and nothing gets accomplished at the end of the day. Like, I'm actually shocked that he won the cage match with Chris Jericho, because Dean Ambrose just never wins, and sometimes he doesn't even lose. I mean, in the case of the Seth Rollins feud, Bray Wyatt just interfered in their blow-off cage match, and that was kind of it. Like, Dean Ambrose can't even finish a feud, whether he wins or loses. He's been Teflon. The audience has responded well to him for 2 years of doing nothing after the Shield broke up. But Raj is right. The Brock Lesnar feud was the one that kind of just killed him, because I think people really wanted to see Dean Ambrose get that big win over Brock at WrestleMania, and it wasn't going to happen, and it didn't happen. And now we're just trying to build up Dean Ambrose back, and a feud with Chris Jericho didn't do that. Maybe winning Money in the Bank will do that, but I don't think he's even in the top 3 of candidates I would have win that match. So we might be for a long summer of Dean Ambrose just kind of spinning his wheels further and further.
We also had Alberto Del Rio beat Sami Zayn. Alberto Del Rio seems like a giant waste of money at this point, Rob.
Yeah, well, it didn't help when he comes back and immediately he gets the win over John Cena and then nothing. And you pair him up with Sheamus, who's nowhere. You pair him up with Rusev, who you're burying. You're pairing him up with guys who are going to make him a loser by association. And it was funny watching the League of Nations because Del Rio almost looked like on screen he knew that he was a loser by association. Like, I don't belong with these 4. You would see him kind of go off on his own every once in a while. You would see him kind of, do different emotions than the rest of the guys. So Del Rio knows that he wasn't doing anything important there, and hopefully some type of singles program that comes back will ramp him back up again. But when you can't have a good match, because I didn't think the match with Sami Zayn was that great tonight. If you can't have a good match with Sami Zayn, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the match was barely below average, and part of it's just that double stomp finisher, and they've spent a lot of time, teasing it at the end before you finally hit it, and it's just such a stupid finisher when someone just has to hold themselves up for that long to take it. It's got to be retired for good. I thought that hurt the match a lot for me, but yeah, Del Rio, I just don't know what you do at this point to kind of reinvent him unless you bring back Ricardo Rodriguez or something like that, because I can't see a babyface turn helping him. With Dean Ambrose, you could turn him heel, and it would completely revitalize his character. But with Del Rio, they just kind of booked him so badly that I don't know how you turn it around.
Seems to be the case oftentimes in WWE. We had a look at Seth Rollins' rehab and recovery. Hard for me to boo this guy, Raj.
Yeah. I missed that one. I was posting something, but it was good.
It was very good. I thought it was fantastic. Every produced segment that they have done, like they did that WWE 24 with Seth Rollins.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Darren Young. Yes. Yeah.
Darren Young.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking at the questions in the comment section. But this was most of the footage was from the WWE 24 network special, which I thought was just fantastic. And yeah, I thought this feature was great. And it's one of those things they shouldn't have turned Rollins yet. I think they should have had him come in as a tweener. He just wants his belt back. He's not kissing up to fans, and then let it ride out and just see where it goes. But I thought it was a fantastic package, though.
I understand wanting to do Rollins back in the title picture right away because that's where he was when he left. You want to put him into the title picture, get his championship back. But with Roman as the champion right now, I don't know if that was the first thing they should have done. I really think they probably should have kept Rollins maybe away, done something else. A babyface run was absolutely money for WWE. People wanted to cheer this guy. I think he's doing an okay job of turning him and getting people to dislike him. There were other ways to go, I think, that would have been better, but they just had to do this title match right out of the gate. And I worry about with SummerSlam coming up, too, because SummerSlam is 2 pay-per-views away. I don't know if any program that's going on right now is going to last all the way to SummerSlam. So these guys are kind of in, limbo. Like, get this program out of the way before we get to the real stuff for SummerSlam, and that's not good news for Seth Rollins, I don't think.
Yeah, unless they do the title change, and then they can go to the rematch. But I agree. I think this match should have been saved a little bit, like not doing it right off the bat. But that being said, this Money in the Bank is a loaded pay-per-view when you look at it top to bottom. But really, that should be what a SummerSlam is, and maybe it will be. But the best matches you could think of, they're kind of doing it away right now.
There was a Rusev Jack Swagger match. Titus O'Neil was on commentary. Titus O'Neil has been beaten 1 time on TV in 7 months. Granted, he was suspended for 2 of those. Mm-hmm. Not brought up while he is being built for a U.S. title match. The real reason I want to talk about this match is, for some reason, Jack Swagger was like kind of protected in this match.
Yeah.
And he's over with the fans, or at least his catchphrase is. Every single time he comes out to that crowd. Oh, and believe you me, guys, I know what I'm talking about because I cover superstars every week for the website, and I see Jack Swagger wrestle a lot. Every time he gets a crowd reaction. And I always thought, okay, it's probably that this is the first guy we're seeing pop. But now we're, in towards the end of the first hour on Raw, and he's still getting this reaction. Any rhyme or reason, Raj, you see why they're protecting him? Maybe because they got a brand split coming up? I don't know.
No, I mean, he just submitted to the Accolade on SmackDown last week.
Yeah, he did.
So, yeah, that made no sense to me. It's weird, I think the reason why they don't show SmackDown replays on Raw is so they can replay SmackDown on Raw, because they had this, they had, the club again, I mean, AJ pinning Kofi again. But yeah, it's a weird thing, because Jack Swagger, unless they're going to put him in the title feud and make it a three-way.
I love Jack Swagger, and you're right, Sean. I mean, Jack Swagger is over in the buildings, and there are guys who are over in the buildings who don't necessarily, draw money, or people aren't going to see them specifically, but they're kind of a cool attraction to see when you're there, and I think Jack Swagger is one of those guys, and he just has great chemistry with Rusev. I mean, the Rusev program of 2 years ago was absolutely fantastic. So those two always work together. I like Titus. You're right. They don't bring up anything with Titus O'Neil. And they could easily build him up a little bit better by saying, hey, this is a guy, who doesn't lose a lot lately. But I think what they would probably not want to do is then explain why he was off TV for so long. Like, if we explain this guy didn't, lose a match, but, you didn't see him around because we had to suspend him for grabbing our chairman's arm. So they don't really want to explain that he was off TV.
Well, he hadn't lost for 4 months before the suspension until the Adam Rose loss, and they didn't mention it at all. Personally, if I'm on a 4-month winning streak in the WWE, I'm saying, hey, please bring that up during my match. Please. At least that way, if somebody does beat me, it'll mean something for them.
If you're Titus O'Neil and you just got back from a suspension, are you going to rock any boats?
It's true. Very true. We had a promo between John Cena, AJ Styles, and the club. Some interesting dialogue in this promo. Let's see. Cena talks about the crowd being divided on John Cena and AJ Styles. Styles says he knows the fact that Cena can't beat him, and it burns Cena up inside. Styles tells his kids that he hasn't faced Cena because Cena doesn't want to be in the ring with him, because Styles would run circles around John Cena. John Cena says that he's disappointed because Styles had 15 years to come up with insults, and that's the best he had. John Cena says that he is embarrassed by Styles' skills and says his jokes are outdated as his jorts. Cena then mocks AJ's WWE run and says that he is a what was the word he used? A bust. I believe he said he was a bust, which in storyline, AJ Styles is kind of a bust. He loses all the time, or loses on pay-per-view all the time. Cena wants to know, again, why it is Cena versus the club instead of Cena versus AJ, and AJ says that people like John Cena bury people like him. As I said, a lot of interesting dialogue there. Raj, what did you make of this?
I actually thought it was great. I thought this was AJ's best promo since he's been with WWE. I still think Cena owned him a bit. Like, Cena was just on fire. Did you notice Cena? It seemed like he took a little shot at Roman Reigns in there. Yeah, it's like, you got beat by Roman Reigns, you could come to me?
Yeah.
And I wonder if they were planting a seed there. But yeah, I thought this was awesome. I'm really looking forward to Cena and AJ, and I've liked the build so far. My only complaint has been that they beat AJ in that match with Kevin Owens the night after was Extreme Rules was the last one, but I don't think that they should have done that. But other than that, I think it's been great. I'm looking forward to this, and I hope they don't do the regular John Cena new star booking where Cena loses the first and then wins the next 5. But so far it's been good.
I like this segment. Rob, what did you think?
I enjoyed it. There were the inside terms like you talked about, like AJ getting buried. AJ knows that you don't come into WWE if you lose to John Cena, you're going to get buried right away. You can go non-inside with that too, but I liked the program. I like everything AJ has done ever since he beat Chris Jericho on that Raw after WrestleMania to earn the title shot. I think the last 2 months of AJ have been absolutely fantastic, and I'm looking forward very much to seeing what this match has to offer, because you still have Guns and Gallows there roaming around. Are they going to interplay forever in AJ Styles matches? Is this one finally going to be AJ and John Cena one-on-one? And do we get a finish to this type of program? I'm looking forward to AJ Styles and John Cena, and hoping that AJ gets a lot out of them.
Next up, we had Enzo and Big Cass against the Vaudevillains. Was a little surprised this wasn't booked for the pay-per-view, considering that it's a no-brainer. They did the spot in which Enzo sustained a concussion, and he sold it really well, and then Cass snapped and beat the living shit out of the Vaudevillains, leading to a no-contest DQ, or DQ with the Vaudevillains winning. This was really used to set up how big of a monster that Cass is. I liked it. I thought it was good storytelling. I thought it would lead to a Vaudevillains Enzo and Cass match, because I didn't figure you would want Enzo and Cass coming up unsuccessful in a tag team title chase already, but instead we're getting New Day, the Club, the Vaudevillains, and Enzo and Cass. I liked this for a couple of reasons. It portrayed Enzo as the vulnerable guy, and he is a small guy who just had a concussion, and it portrayed Big Cass as the dude who had to take care of business. I think this is a great direction to take this, to get sympathy on Enzo, to make Cass look really good, really strong. I think there's a lot of different ways that they can go with this, Rob, but do you think that they will go full on with this, or do you think this was just kind of like one of those, let's do something halfway interesting, and then they never follow up on it?
No, when I watched this program, when I watched that segment on Monday Night Raw, the first thing I thought of is, okay, they've decided that Big Cass is a single star. They've decided to completely remove him from Enzo Amore, which is crazy. Now, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but that's what I'm watching this, and I'm like, Big Cass, they showed that he doesn't need Enzo Amore. That Enzo Amore is the one who gets beat up. Big Cass is the one who comes in, as you say, take care of business, but at the same time, that can be represented as Big Cass can beat two guys on his own. Why does he need Enzo Amore? So I'm worried that they're going to split them up faster. Enzo being out with his injury, showing that Big Cass can have some singles matches in him. I think that was the worst thing for this tag team, because I think they're going to split Big Cass up. But you know what? It was good that Big Cass showed the intensity. It was a cool segment, but you did have definite seeds planted there for a breakup, including the way Enzo Amore was looking at Big Cass. Like, I got taken out and you couldn't control your emotions. You just went crazy. How are we ever going to win matches if this happens? So as for the four-way, I don't know what they're going to do. I think that's a way for New Day just to keep their titles, but it's also a way for maybe a Vaudevillains to slip in there. Who knows? I'm worried about the tag team future of this Enzo Amore and Big Cass, though.
Raj, you think they'll split Enzo and Cass up? It seems like the heat's going to go away once Enzo goes away from Cass. I don't know if he can sustain it.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's clear that Vince sees a lot in Big Cass, but this tag team hasn't even started to get hot yet. On the main roster, let it build, let it simmer before you just throw it away. I mean, there's tons of potential there.
You're absolutely right, and while I fear for this, I hope it doesn't happen, because I don't think it's the right idea. Absolutely, I just when you start seeing things like this on television, and the past when one guy is taken out and you have to force the other one to be a single star. If it works, they tend to go with that. If it doesn't work, they go right back to being a tag team or get released shortly thereafter. I'm worried about it. I hope it doesn't happen. I want to see these two guys team together, because that's what's working. Big Cass was starting to fall on his face a little bit with the crowd the longer he went solo during Enzo's absence. So you don't want to see that either. You don't want Big Cass to turn into what Roman Reigns was at the end of last year, where the crowds just did not want to see him by himself.
Well, just like with Diesel and Shawn Michaels, when they broke up, they went with Diesel way too hard and kind of left Shawn by the wayside there. He was kind of just fodder for Diesel. And even though Sean really deserved that spot, so there's definitely a track record here. But I think hopefully it was just trying to give his character a little extra something that he can snap, and that they keep them as a team for a while. But as history has shown, that usually doesn't happen. But guys, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to cut out here. I got to get on this Kimbo thing. But you guys have a great show, and and I'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye bye.
So
on the point about Big Cass too, do you think, like, if you're thinking about this, and I don't think Big Cass has, not taking a shot at his mind, but I don't know if he has the wrestling mind for this or the historic mind for this. If I'm Big Cass, I'm going out on TV and falling on my face once in a while on promos to make sure that they keep me with Enzo Amore. Like, I'm going out there and just stinking up the joint to make sure that Vince does not give me a microphone by myself in a singles run. Like, I want to stay with Enzo for a little bit.
For a couple of reasons. One, if I'm a singles and I'm Big Cass, I still want Enzo if I'm a babyface. Right. You still want Enzo there because Enzo could be, because if this wrestling thing doesn't work out for Enzo, he could be an all-time great manager, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Also, if it's a heel thing, you better let this thing simmer. You better give him a good run, or else people, the angle will fall flat.
Yeah, no, I would not want to be separated right now. If I'm Enzo Amore too, obviously I don't want to be separated either because I can talk, and that might be about it. Like, how much room are they going to give me for just coming out here and cutting promos every once in a while? Eventually I have to get in the ring. And that has never been Enzo Amore's strong suit. If you've watched him in NXT, there's a reason why they didn't usually get long matches. They didn't usually get title shots because you could not put them out there for 15 minutes. And we're going to see how it plays out here. But this Raw was really the moment where if they do split up in the next like 3 or 4 months, this is the Raw where you can say, you know what? I know when Vince made his decision. He made his decision during that week because it showed up on TV that night there on June 6th.
Well, the good thing is if they do get split up and Enzo can't shop for Cass anymore, Cass can go to trendybutler.com. That's right, trendybutler.com. Use the code Wrestling10, all caps, and you can get a great deal in Trendy Butler. If you're not familiar with the service, you go there, you create a custom style profile based on patterns, colors, what you like to wear, what you don't like to wear, all that stuff, and they will have a stylist pick out your clothes for you. I don't like to shop that much, so Trendy Butler is ideal for me. $65 a month, $55 if you use our code Wrestling10, all caps. Will get you over $150 in designer clothes. They sent me over $200 worth of stuff. 200. trendybutler.com. You can go there. You can check out some of their examples of boxes that they send to people. Check them out. trendybutler.com. Hot diggity damn. You better check it out, people. You better check it. If you DVR'd Raw, while this Dana Brooke, Charlotte, Becky Lynch, Natalya segment's going on, just check out Trendy Butler instead. This segment sucked ass, Rob.
Yeah.
I wish they would, first off, I want to say this. I wish they would re-ban spray tans in the WWE.
Okay. I mean, hot take from Sean Ross Sapp. Yeah.
Hot take.
Hot take. Dana Brooke. I love Dana Brooke. I do. She is my favorite. Probably my favorite wrestler of all time.
Did you see her trying to creep around to do that swerve in her heels? She could barely stand.
She could barely stand up, and then she has to actually attack, and she was not moving her feet. Like, only her upper body was moving during that attack until she eventually ripped those shoes off. I just thought it was funny that you give Charlotte this dialogue. You tell Charlotte to go out there and talk about how she does not want to stand in anyone's shadow. She doesn't want to share the spotlight with anyone, all while being right next to someone who she's sharing the spotlight with. Like, at least think about what you're going to be writing for these people when they go out and say it. Like, that did not make any sense. I always thought Dana Brooke had super potential on the main roster, but it's not going to be as someone's, flunky. not going to be someone's second. This word I've invented, her flacky, because that's what she is right now. She is her flacky.
Yeah, this segment sucked. I'll tell you what didn't suck. I'm all in on Breezango.
Oh, me too.
I love these guys. God, this gimmick, I love it. It fits these two guys.
Yep.
Good for them. I'm so thrilled that these two guys who are at the bottom, lucky to have jobs right now, the bottom.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
right now,
I'm
cool with them.
They got to get away from, Goldust and R-Truth.
Yeah.
At some point, they got to remove themselves from all of that. But no, I'm with you. I'm all in on these guys. I'm ready to see what they can do as a tag team. I'm ready to start seeing them on television more. I'm stunned they're on television as much as they are right now, honestly. But yeah, I'm all up for some Breezango. I mean, it's better than the Usos every week. Like, I am tired of the Usos, and I have been for a couple of years now. Get them away. Let some other people come up. What I'm also tired of, was this next? I'm not sure if it was next, but it's going to be next right now. The Shining Stars need to go away.
Go away forever.
They've had chance after chance. I am always stunned when there's people who fall through the cracks this much and get chance after chance. And I'm not in favor, obviously, of people losing their jobs. But Epico and Primo have now gotten a second chance at basically the same gimmick they had before as the Colognes. Then their third chance was really that, the tag team of the Matadors. So they've gotten chance after chance after chance, but have not evolved, have not changed what they do. And if you're going to, Emma goes back to NXT. Emma has her run up. She goes back to NXT. She changes who she is. The Shining Stars haven't changed anything from when they were the Colognes. Like, you got to come up with something new, guys, if you want to stick around. And now they don't have faith in them to go on TV and wrestle. They had one match and they haven't been back in the ring since. They keep doing these green screen promos, which look wacky. Like, you're talking about going to Puerto Rico when you're in a green screen in Houston, Texas. Like, what's going on?
They should just call them the Colons because this gimmick is the shits. Yep.
Bazinga.
The Club beat the New Day. This was what that match was, but John Cena came out and made a save. We get more of the Club. Okay, so last week we had AJ Styles saving Anderson and Gallows from the threat of a 3-on-2 beatdown from the New Day.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have John Cena coming to attack to make it 4-on-3. Interesting tactics for baby faces, but I'm excited for Styles versus Cena.
Oh yeah. I mean, it is. Michael Cole called it a WrestleMania dream match, and sometimes you get these dream matches everywhere but WrestleMania. It seems like WrestleMania is where they don't do dream matches anymore at all. You get multi-man matches left and right. So this is a Money in the Bank dream match. John Cena, AJ Styles. It is a big deal. I am hyped for it. I hope they keep it one-on-one, at least on this one. Yeah. They've been booking AJ Styles so weird, though, for months. I mean, with the Roman Reigns program, he was always the underdog with Roman Reigns and the Usos. It's been a very strange road for AJ Styles here and what they've been doing, but this was a Raw. I mean, from top to bottom, this was exactly what a non-go home and non-first week after a pay-per-view Raw is. It is, let's just get us over to next week, and that's what they did tonight.
So that was Raw. In non-WWE news, the Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy contract signing was the greatest thing ever produced in the history of professional wrestling. If you haven't watched that, go watch it. We will talk more about it on Wednesday when we bring you our post-NXT Takeover show. But we're going to talk a little bit about NXT Takeover, make our predictions. Andrade, how do I pronounce his last name? Almas?
Andrade Almas. Andrade
He's winning.
Almas, yeah.
He's winning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, the miracle run of Ty Dillinger is over.
And I love Ty Dillinger. I think
he's the gatekeeper. I mean, this is the
I think I think he has a better chance on the main roster than he does here, but he's still going to do the same thing on the main roster if he ever goes there. But at least then he'll be making more money, so good for him. Nakamura versus Aries. I don't see Nakamura losing this one.
No. I don't see him losing. I could see something happening. I mean, if you're thinking Bobby Roode is showing up on NXT Takeover, this is probably where Bobby Roode shows up. I could see a case being made for the main event, but yeah, Austin Aries, he's not a guy that has to be protected. Austin Aries, I don't think he's on the level of, the Shinsuke Nakamura's obviously, or what Sami Zayn was. So yeah, give Shinsuke Nakamura to win. It is very interesting that they basically built this up as a number one contenders match for the title, but are not calling it that. Like, these are the top two guys who should be in line for the title, but they are not calling it a number one contenders match because after TakeOver, we have this little thing called the brand extension. Mm-hmm. And I don't think they know where anyone is going to be. So you don't want to, nail a number one contender spot onto somebody in case that person isn't going to be sticking around. So
I'm going to a live event like 3 days before brand extension in Highland Heights. Can't wait
because you're probably going to get everybody is the thing. Those are the 3 days to actually go. You're probably going to get everybody. It's the week after if they actually.
Oh, I'm passing up a Sublime with Rome concert just to watch Shinsuke Nakamura.
I tell you what, it was weird too. You got Shinsuke, you got Finn Balor, you got Samoa Joe, you got the Drifter before his injury. Get well soon, Drifter. The talent that was booked on this last weekend of NXT national house shows, very interesting. Daria from Tough Enough. You got Tino Sabatelli on there. Tino Sabatelli, who I think has a lot of potential. And I'm always right about these things. I'm calling it with the Drifter. I'm calling it with Baron Corbin. Superstars of the business in the future. So I'm 100% on that. Very interesting that they're getting a lot of people ready, it seems like, because I think they're going to need Tino Sabatelli to fill in on TV, once this brand extension happens. I think they're going to need to see a lot of these guys. Hey, you watched Breaking Ground, right?
Yeah.
He was the best part.
I disagree.
Well, I mean, Baron Corbin was the best part, but Tino Sabatelli was the second best part by far.
I guess I wanted to shove a coat hanger in my ears every time I heard him say gangster.
Well, yeah, you're supposed to.
That's true. Good point. NXT tag title match, American Alpha versus The Revival. The Revival, while great, are not as great as a resurrection. The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, now available on Netflix, as well as DVD and Blu-ray. You can go to the DDP Yoga website, use the code WINC, get a good deal on that. Also available, Vudu, Amazon, Google Play, iTunes, PlayStation Network, video on demand, everywhere. Check that out. It's got I think it had a 4.5-star rating on Netflix when my fiance watched it yesterday. That's fantastic.
Nice. Yeah.
Very fantastic.
Very good.
And you can use what Jake the Snake Roberts used to get into shape. I think Mick Foley said that he has lost 70 pounds on ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. Go there, get a great deal on the Max Pack, as well as 3 free months on the DDP Yoga app. I love the DDP Yoga app. I don't often travel. I'm more of a remote employee of Wrestling Inc. But when I do have to travel, I had to go to the Arnold Classic this year. I used ddpyoga.com/wrestling inc. and the DDP Yoga app to get my workout in. Highly encouraged. Of course, tweet DDP and DDP Yoga. Let them know we sent you. Check out our interview with DDP a few weeks ago. Hot diggity damn. Use DDP Yoga.
Yeah.
American Alpha versus...
The Revival are going to win.
Really?
They're going to win the tag team titles from American Alpha. Yes.
Now, I want to ask you, and I'll kind of set you up here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's to continue the feud, or do you think that's to leave them in NXT while American Alpha goes to the main roster in a couple of weeks or a few weeks?
I think American Alpha's on up, and
they're ready.
I think that's the one where I think, okay, we know we're moving those guys up, so let's get the tag titles off of them, because why else do you have Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa beat the Revival on NXT the week before?
It's a fantastic question, and I thought that maybe they'd get added to the match, which I had mixed feelings on, because I want while I liked their Dallas match, me and you both thought that this could be like near 5-star level stuff from them, and that's not what we got. I hope that is the case this time, but American Alpha, whew. I mean, the thing that's interesting is you're going to get American Alpha on a roster either with the New Day or Enzo and Cass. There's going to be at least 2 of those teams are going to be on one brand unless one of the teams gets split. And I think the American Alpha can be modern day Steiner Brothers. I really do.
I think they could be a very important tag team, and I think it could really set up either Chad Gable or Jason Jordan as being a legit single star. I think that team is very important to cultivate properly. I think they would go up. So, Revival and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa being a program that's basically set up for the future makes sense. So we'll see. But I think I don't even think I'm going out on a limb. I think I would go over 50%, obviously, that the Revival win. I think I'm going 75% that the Revival win. And you could also look at, no other title changes on the show. So, like, if I'm thinking which title is most likely to change, it's the tag titles here. And I understand the argument, like, well, American Alpha just won. Why would you take it away from them so soon? The tag team belts in NXT have always been like this. I mean, Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy winning on a TV show, the Revival winning it, the Ascension having it for so long and never really getting any traction from any other tag teams, Enzo and Cass never winning the belts. The tag team titles don't necessarily mean anything. They build up the tag division. They see what they want to do with them. But at the end of the day, the tag team titles in NXT are developmental belts. They put the belts on the teams that they need to develop more. And right now, American Alpha is pretty well developed to go up to the main roster. So I think it's a pretty good likelihood that the Revival win.
I agree.
Oh, you do?
Oscar,
you sounded shocked when I first said it. Now,
well, I mean, it sounds like a pretty damn good idea, Rob.
Yeah, this is what I do. I win people over. I didn't, Raj leaves and I can finally relax a little bit because, the boss is gone. It's party time all the time. See what I did there?
I don't think Asuka's going to lose to Nia Jax. How about you?
I don't think so. No, I think Asuka's going to win, especially with the way Nia Jax laid her out at the end. And then Bayley can come back, get her win over Nia, and then boom, Asuka and Bayley at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, which is happening at the same time as CM Punk fighting in the UFC, LOL.
Okay. Samoa Joe, Finn Balor. 1, both of these guys coming up to the main roster. 2, who the hell's winning?
I think Samoa Joe takes it. I think Finn Balor does get called up. It's probably time for him. I don't think they're going to tie him to the club in any way. Everything I see out here on the Twitter, when I'm perusing my little Twitter app on my Mac, everyone seems to think that if Finn Balor gets called up, they're like, how is he going to interplay with the club? And like, he doesn't have to. He can do his own thing. They're clearancing out the Balor Club merchandise. I think they separate Finn Balor from the club. They've never tied him together, but I think they completely separate him. I think Finn Balor does his own thing, and Samoa Joe is there to kind of take over the NXT brand, or it could go the other way. Finn Balor could win, and Finn Balor is the one who anchors the NXT brand while Samoa Joe gets called up.
Yeah, they don't do a lot of backwards booking with that NXT title. There's never been a 2-time champion.
Because by the time someone wins it, they get called up. Sami Zayn, Neville, Kevin Owens, they don't have time to win it twice. That's actually, if Finn Balor were to win it twice, that says something about Finn Balor being there too long.
Yes, it does. We will be live after NXT TakeOver, our first post-NXT TakeOver show. I'll answer some questions here in a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit about UFC 199 and Ariel Helwani. Ariel Helwani was banned by the UFC, pulled from Media Row before the main event because he correctly, mind you, scooped the UFC on the Brock Lesnar news and the Nate Diaz Conor McGregor news. UFC was livid about this. Now, Ariel Helwani did the MMA Hour today, which, in my opinion, is a must-watch. And you will see a lot of the things that journalists go through. People will ask, well, why didn't he clear it with the UFC? Because the UFC lies to us, you guys. I have reached UFC for comments several times about injuries, and they have flat out denied them, only to report 3 days later that the injury is, real. This isn't WWE. These aren't spoilers. This is a sport. This is the same as, Peyton Manning getting injured and them not listing it on an injury report, or, somebody reporting trade rumors even. That happens. Ariel Helwani was doing his job, and not only was he banned, but his videographer and photographer, two of the best in MMA, mind you, were also banned. That's what led to him kind of going on a social media, not a tangent, but just explaining what happened. And it unfortunately overshadowed the Lesnar news to an extent. Michael Bisping's enormous win, a great moment for Dan Henderson, Dominic Cruz winning the title.
Yeah.
It's horrible. That was the story coming out if you read any mainstream media. It was about the UFC doing this. And Dana White had said today, as long as he's around, that Helwani would be banned. Yeah. Now, they didn't say that his ban per se was lifted, but they said that the MMAfighting.com ban was lifted. And that's good, because Helwani doesn't have to be there to do his job.
Right. That happened right before we went on the air. UFC released a statement saying that they have allowed MMA fighting to continue to be credentialed for events, and that they have made it clear by what they did over the weekend that they don't agree with the tactics of their lead reporter, Ariel Helwani. So, basically they're giving MMA fighting their credentials back, but in a way they're telling MMA fighting, hey, think about who you send to our events. Think carefully about who you send to our events, because this very well could happen. So they didn't make amends with Ariel Helwani. They believe that he did things wrong, and they made a statement about it. They're going to let MMA fighting back, but they still don't want Ariel Helwani back, but they're going to get him. Very interesting.
Well, they might. They may keep Helwani from the shows, but fortunately for MMA fighting, they have the likes of Luke Thomas and Mark Raimondi and a lot of fantastic reporters there. MMA fighting is a great website. A lot of guys I really respect. And it's like, a lot of people were like, oh, well, he bounced himself out of the business. The hell he did. He's the best reporter, period. And he straight up said it. He was like, I can't break fights down the way that Luke Thomas can. I can't do ratings the way that Dave Meltzer can. I can't do, so-and-so like any of these. But he manages to tie it all together. And Ariel is really great and has always been really down to earth and incredibly kind when I have dealt with him. But what this does, and, to an extent, the WWE kind of does it. Not really, though. The WWE isn't just like gung-ho about, hey, Sean Ross Sapp, hey, Wrestling Inc., here's some interviews. The reason they do that is because they'd rather give it to local, like, NBC affiliates and things like that, because they know that we're going to cover it anyway. And if they can get that mainstream coverage in addition to ours, that's what they'll do.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I was in Columbus, and they gave me 2 interviews. They gave me American Alpha and Alexa Bliss. They tell you where to stand, how long you have. If anything's off limits, they make sure to tell you. But, much different. And the UFC PR team, from my experience, used to be a giant pain in the ass to deal with. Not so much anymore. But when stuff like this happens, it really throws a lot of things into question, because I cover wrestling and MMA out of desire, not out of necessity. I could work for newspapers and cover different sports. I don't want to do that. I like wrestling. I like MMA. And what this does is it really makes you question, am I doing the right thing? Because what if I report something that these people don't like? And I said it, I sat on the Ronda Rousey WrestleMania news the day that it happened, and it's like, did I do the right thing? My wallet says that I didn't do the right thing, but my heart did, because I didn't want to expose a source. I didn't want to get people in trouble, and Raj was the only person that I told. It brings up a lot of emotions in me as a journalist. Rob, what were your feelings in this whole situation?
Yeah, if you watch the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani today, you can kind of get a lot of that frustration, as you said. I mean, he had sources from both sides, from both the UFC side as well as Brock Lesnar's side, that Brock Lesnar was coming back to UFC and was negotiating a deal. How high up those sources in UFC go? Probably, obviously not to the top. I don't think it's Dana White telling him. It's obviously not the Fertitta brothers telling him, but he had it from both sides. So UFC's contention is, you should have had the courtesy to come and tell us that you had this. And Ariel Helwani, his frustration is, if I would have done that, A, you could have lied to me. B, you could have told me to wait and sit on it for an hour. And C, you could have quickly released the news yourself. so that I no longer have this story for me. So you could have played me a fool a little bit. So he goes and rushes it out, and that's certainly something he could do. I can understand UFC's side that you want to come to us. Yes, they probably would have lied. They probably would have denied the story, but at least that way the UFC can't say that, Ariel wasn't interested in our side of the story. That is the one thing where I can see their side on it, obviously, but it's a lot of frustration from Ariel's side because this is a guy who has, basically admitted to a story that was not that widely kept secret, that this was a guy who was abused one time by UFC security, like at an arena. This is a guy who's gone through so much that I can understand why he isn't ready and willing to give UFC the benefit of the doubt on almost anything. So what are the other issues that UFC is stopping about? Because they're saying that there's much more than just him breaking a Brock Lesnar story. Is it big enough to where they really should keep him out of the business? I don't know. When I first heard the story, I thought it was crazy. I mean, just from a PR standpoint, why are you removing the guy during your main event? I mean, you may be upset with him. You may want to ban him. Send him an email Monday morning, so your whole weekend isn't covered with this news instead of the craziness that your actual event brought in. So I just think it was bungled. It was handled super poorly from the UFC side, and it makes you question if there's an actual sale of UFC. This is the type of stuff that's probably going to change for the better. The PR thing you would think has to get better. I remember when I was asking, I would get credentialed for Elite XC stuff when they would come to Hammond. They would come to the casinos up here, and I would go through that. And the PR people for them were excellent to work with. They were quick, easy. Everything was seamless. It's easier when you're a number two, when you're a reporter trying to get press access to a lower tier promotion, whether it be wrestling, whether it be MMA, whether it be anything. They're ready and willing to give you all the access they need and you need because they want the coverage. The top tier, the WWE, the UFC, they don't necessarily need the coverage from the smaller guys, so they'll give it to the Rolling Stones, they'll give it to the ESPNs. But if you're a local paper, maybe we'll see what we can do, and probably nothing. So yeah, the PR team from UFC has come out really badly this weekend when other organizations do it so much better. I know you had a tweet coming your way from someone who works in baseball talking about how it's just unfathomable that you get one spoiled report and you're blocking an entire organization from attending your events and having access. It's just silly.
Yeah, Jamie Ramsey, the assistant director of Cincinnati Reds media relations, said that ideally we like to get the trade news on our own and release it, but that doesn't always happen. But we don't ban those people. This was rough, and somebody says, does Sean really believe he'd be writing for newspapers if he wasn't on Wrestling Inc.? I did, you goofball. Anyway, and the thing that was bad is this, from the mainstream perspective, it did overshadow all the great things that happened.
All of it.
At UFC 199, and a lot of great things. Dan Henderson, in my opinion, one of the greatest moments I've seen in years. Michael Bisping, I told you 777, our moderator. She said that Bisping didn't have a puncher's chance. Everybody has a puncher's chance. Everybody. I will never count anybody out 100% in MMA.
Yeah,
I will never do it. Yes, he does. Yeah. Everybody does.
He really doesn't. Brock Lesnar does against Mark Hunt, that's for sure. I mean, the reach, what is it, like an 8-inch reach advantage? Oh, I can't wait for Mike Goldberg to run down those stats.
Indeed. Michael Bisping, by the way, and you all can watch the Wrestling Inc. podcast from after UFC 199. Great moment. Good for him. Very happy. By all means, this is a guy who can't see really well out of one eye. Still knocked out Luke Rockhold. Just really, really good stuff on that show. Hated that it was overshadowed by that. Just a shame. Let's see what questions we have.
Get overshadowed by the Muhammad Ali news anyway, but you really didn't need UFC fighting with reporters. You had the Associated Press picking this up today. You had ESPN. Ariel Helwani is on Scott Van Pelt's show right now. He was on Dan Le Batard earlier this morning, making the rounds. 25,000 people watched his MMA Hour YouTube stream today. I mean, a YouTube stream at 1:00 in the afternoon on a Monday had 25,000 viewers because people were interested and people are on Ariel Helwani is a guy that's really likable in the public mainstream. So, they wanted to see him do well, and it's not like Dana White is super likable. So they did not win this weekend for sure, and they should have, because that was one heck of a show.
I'll get through these questions rather quickly because we are way over on time. Somebody says, how do you get into podcasting? And what is the ceiling for Breezango? Well, if you want to go the long route like I did, you go to journalism school that you don't really need for several years, and then you write for free for a long time. Or you could just buy a microphone and a webcam and set yourself up a YouTube account, and that's really about all it takes. And have an opinion.
I just love the spectrum of questions there. Hey, how do I get in podcasting? But Breezango, what's the deal?
I think they could be tag champions if they really went all in on them. Sure. Yeah. Why not? Sean, did you pull up that voicemail from Matt Hardy yet? So Matt Hardy called me the other day. I woke up from a nap, and the voicemail just said, Sean, this is Matt Hardy. I hope your weekend is full of desolation. And that was it. That was the voicemail.
They are getting some pub for this, though. So good on Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. Like, it may be ridiculous, but when is the last time that TNA has gotten this type of attention, especially on a crazy week that we've had? When is the last time they've gotten this much attention for something that's actually on-screen related? So this is
they didn't get this much attention, but ironically, the last time I saw them get a little bit of a buzz was because of the Big Money Matt character. And that was really, people were like, oh, that's cool. That's interesting, or something like that. Other than that, it hasn't been for a long time. Nothing of this magnitude for quite a while.
It's ridiculous, and it's a vanity project. I mean, they're just doing what they want to do, and no one's telling them no. But they got a pay-per-view coming up, Slammiversary, and this is the most hype that I think you've had going into a Slammiversary in at least a few years. No one's going to buy the show, but at least they're getting some notoriety out there. At least maybe more people are going to watch the show. More people are going to be in tune with what TNA is doing. So by that regard, some people may laugh at it. Some people may think it's the most ridiculous thing ever, but if it works, it works.
Somebody says, if Brock Lesnar wins, who do you think he faces at SummerSlam? Roman Reigns, because if he beats the Super Samoan in July, he's probably going to face another Super Samoan in August.
Yeah, and it's a good thing this is happening before Battleground and before they actually have to book storylines.
WWE wants their guy to beat a guy who beat a top 10 UFC guy.
Oh, well, if Brock wins, the perfect scenario is, yes, he'll wrestle Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. But if he loses, it's probably going to be someone like Bray Wyatt. Like I think they have different plans based on what could happen.
Oh yeah, I think he kills somebody if he loses. He might obliterate somebody to try to get his heat back.
Yes,
I don't know.
That's how you do it. If this guy loses, sure, people are going to be like, oh, Brock Lesnar lost. No one's going to think he's another tough guy. This is a former world champion. He doesn't lose that. He lost his last two fights before coming back to WWE, and guess what happened? He was the super over monster Brock Lesnar again. He can lose, and he can even look somewhat bad in losing, because all he's got to do is come out on Raw, pissed off, start beating up the freaking shining stars for all I care, and everything works out for him, and then he can go dominate the Wyatt family at pay-per-view, and he's back. That's all that has to happen. This is why I really don't think there's that much of a risk having him lose. The only risk there is if he does get hurt and can't wrestle at SummerSlam. And if that's the case, then he comes back at Survivor Series. They just push it back a couple of pay-per-views. I think this is a big win for WWE having this happen. I think they weren't going to say no, and they may have been tempted to try and do whatever they could to say no to protect Brock and protect their interest in him. But I think this is going to end up being a huge win for them. I really do.
Somebody asked if Russo got to keep the beanie. Yeah, Phil Rodriguez donated $75 to the Pope, D'Angelo Dinero, Elijah Burke's Love Alive charity that feeds the homeless in Jacksonville. So, Vince definitely gets to keep that. Guys, please go donate to that charity. I know that personally that a lot of those donations help Elijah with feeding the homeless. But at the end of the day, he's swiping his credit card, and he's paying a pretty big balance to help make that happen. So please look that up, the Love Alive charity on Google, and support that. Somebody asked who we think's winning the Fatal 4-Way tag title match. Probably the New Day.
I would put the New Day at number 1. I would put the Vaudevillains at number 2. And I would put, what's the third team? Who am I missing? The Club. I would put the Club at number 3, and I would put Enzo and Cass as a distant number 4.
Yeah. Somebody asked, last question. Do you think WWE will finally put Muhammad Ali in the celebrity wing, and why haven't they already? Probably didn't already because, well, he was alive, but he couldn't make a speech because his Parkinson's was so advanced, and he had been in declining health the last couple of years anyway. But yeah, I would imagine it's almost a lock that he goes in next year.
They like to have the celebrities be someone that can go be involved, have an actual celebrity available to do all the media and whatnot. And that's what they like out of the celebrity wing. So you weren't.
They can have Layla do that. Layla Ali.
You could. You could absolutely put him in the celebrity wing. You could put him in the regular ring, the regular, whatever. Just put Muhammad Ali in. It doesn't have to be the celebrity wing. They could still have someone come in and be the celebrity to give the speech and get all the mainstream interviews and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, I think he goes in. I think, this is the year probably for Goldberg too, based on the video game. I think they're setting up their list right now, and it could be an interesting one.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Rob and myself are back Wednesday after NXT TakeOver. I know we went a little long tonight, but lots of stuff to talk about, mainly MMA stuff. Follow me on Twitter at Sean Ross Sapp. Check out the Pro Wrestling Tees page for Wrestling Inc. ProWrestlingTees.com/Wrestling Inc. I also have one at Sean Ross Sapp. You can get Catch Wrestling gear, Kraken Fight Team gear. Rob, you do not have a Pro Wrestling Tees store.
I don't have one. I could. I just don't. I don't know what I would put on a shirt. I just don't know what I would.
You're just not an egomaniac, I guess, like I
am. Well, I mean, I'm getting there. I'm.
You are.
You put me on the Monday night show, and we'll see what ego I can build. But yeah, follow me on Twitter at Shake Them Ropes. Follow the podcast Shake Them Ropes, and we will see you on Wednesday after TakeOver. The end of Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. We think.
Yes, guys. Follow Rob, Shake Them Ropes. Has a great podcast as well that you all should check out. Also, ddpyoga.com/Wrestling Inc. and trendybutler.com. Guys, until after TakeOver?
After TakeOver, the end?
Bye!